The Cincinnati Zoo has been around for almost 150 years. As you can imagine in that history, there have been a series of sort of great leaps forward. I'm here with Ron Evans, who's our primate curator and a good friend of mine. And for me in the history, one of those great leaps was when we started breeding gorillas. It seemed like it changed the whole program.
Yeah, and that's even before my time, and I've been around the zoo over 30 years, Thane. So yes, that is a foundation for the Cincinnati Zoo. Gorillas have been part of the Cincinnati Zoo actually for over 80 years, going back to the 30s with our first gorilla, Susie.
Oh boy.
But of course, and we just build on that over those decades of time. So back in 1970, we had the first two gorillas born here, Sam and Samantha.
And Samantha's still alive, 49 years old.
Samantha is still with us, going strong, 49 years old. Her birthday is in January, so she'll be 50.
Oh,
so
yeah,
that's going to be
coming
a
up.
big celebration for sure.
Well, you know, it's remarkable. I've been at the zoo a long, long time, and there are only a few animals. I think 2 elephants and 1 gorilla that have been here longer than I have. So in the old days, they didn't live that long. So
No, back in the, going back to the 30s, Susie the gorilla here set the record at the time for longevity at 22 years old.
Yeah.
The record today is 62 years old
Wow.
for a gorilla in
Yeah.
a zoo. So obviously we've made a lot of strides in their husbandry and their care and their behavior management and their managing their social structure, making everything conducive to what they might experience in the wild so they can exhibit their natural behaviors a little bit better.
Now, thinking of Samantha, she's surely past breeding age, but she still plays a big role. She's in that important breeding group.
Yeah, Samantha right now, she hasn't stopped taking care of baby gorillas. Even though she's retired from making babies, she still has a role as a nanny in our foster gorilla group. So right now she's looking out for little Elle, who is a 3-year-old gorilla who is an orphan, and Samantha's taken on the role of surrogate for little Elle. So she just keeps doing it, and her leadership in that group still is just critical, and she just passes that attitude and that, you know, the way you're supposed to do things as a gorilla on to those little gorillas and maintains that consistency in the group. Yeah.
The changes you've seen, and certainly she's seen in 49 years, we used to isolate gorillas, pull them, bottle feed them, and obviously mother gorillas know how to raise gorillas, so she's seen all that and pulled her right into it.
Samantha has followed along with every modern day advancement we've done in zoos.
Yeah.
She kind of has experienced everything. So back in the day, she was born in our old ape house, of course. This place didn't exist when Samantha was born, Gorilla World. And at the time, that was a modern facility back in the 50s and 60s. But of course, that wasn't really conducive to, once again, gorillas getting along with each other completely, making moms feel safe and that they could take care of their babies properly. Just wasn't quite there. But the Cincinnati Zoo knew they needed to do all they had to do for Samantha when she was born, so we decided to hand raise her back then. Back then also the Cincinnati Zoo had no experience with baby gorillas, 0. So they actually, and we had 2 gorillas born about a week apart to 2 different sets of parents. So the zoo asked Good Samaritan Hospital to step in, help us out a little bit. The gorillas went over to the hospital for a little while and then came back, and the nurses came back to the zoo and helped raise these baby gorillas. And as in honor of all of Good Sam's support, we named them Sam and Samantha. Yeah. People used to think they were twins, but they really weren't. They were born about a week apart to 2 different parents.
Well, we've had a lot of success since then. I know 50 babies, but even more importantly, really great family groups living together, and a great experience for our guests to learn about gorillas as well as a great life for them.
Right, yeah, so, you know, we had, back in the 70s, we had that first baby gorilla boom, and it was so, it was so huge, the news was so big that it prompted Newsweek magazine to call us the sexiest zoo in the country because we were just blowing gorilla babies out all the time. They actually grew out of that old ape house. That's really why Gorilla World was built, because they were eating them out of house and home down there, and they needed more space. So this was the first outdoor naturalistic gorilla habitat, this and San Diego Wild Animal Park, about the same time that it had ever been built anywhere in the world. It was state of the art. It was a real advancement in how we manage gorillas. I don't like to say just about how we show gorillas to people, but that's important as well. We want people to have a good impression about gorillas and look at them in a natural way, so they have a little bit more of a understanding of gorilla natural history, as opposed to looking at them in ugly tile old bedrooms like they used to be. So, but it also was just a little more natural for the gorillas. And over the years up here at Gorilla World, we were able to get to the point where the mother gorillas started taking care of their own offspring, and we didn't have to hand raise them at that point. That's very important. We did a super job at taking care of their health. I mean, the nursery staff back then and the doctors did a wonderful job. But we knew, but when you hand raise a gorilla, you kind of roll the dice just a little bit with how their personality is going to come out. Gorillas have about 13 to 20 different vocalizations, facial expressions, body postures, complex language, rules of etiquette in gorilla society, and they have to learn that from day one, just like people. So it's critical that they're raised by a mother gorilla, and that's another thing that enabled this facility enabled us to do.
Well, it's great, and it's great. Samantha is going to turn 50. The reason the zoo is here is to inspire our visitors with wildlife, and we certainly do a job here at our gorilla world. So, Ron, thanks for everything you and your team do. And next time you're here, look for our big breeding group with Jomo and his offspring, because Samantha's one of the grandmoms in that group.